In what was supposed to be exposure Saturday, at this point, it simply is survive Saturday. Final score out of Farote Field: Missouri 30, Vanderbilt 27 in double overtime. And we got a lot to discuss. Welcome on into the SEC Unfiltered postgame show. I'm Cole Thompson, breaking down everything that we saw from Pavia Power, from Brady Cook, from Luther, Let Him Cook, Burden, and so much more. Real quickly, make sure that you follow us on all the social media platforms: TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at SEC Unfiltered. Make sure that also you hit the subscribe button and the ring notification down below, because it's your source for all things SEC moving forward. Download the podcast version of the show wherever you get your podcast listening systems, and check out all of our great work found at secunfiltered.com. This episode is brought to you by GameTime. Use the GameTime app and use the promo code SECU for $20 off your first purchase. You got games coming up, massive ones if you're a Tiger fan, major ones if you're a Vanderbilt fan. The seasons are not anywhere close to being over at this point, so go ahead and use the GameTime app. Use the promo code SECU when purchasing. What a performance. At this point this week, everything that you know about college football, throw it out the door. It is no longer exposure Saturday. It is literally survival Saturday. Week 4 has been a massive turn of events in the world of college football. And you as a Missouri fan, hold your children, give a hug to your missus, make sure that you go ahead and pray to your college football Jesus, because if you found a way to survive double overtime, it wasn't pretty. There were massive back and forth blows. Brady Cook did not have his overall best performance. And just like Eli Drinkwitz said, you got to give credit to this team out in Nashville. Diego Pavia, there's something about him. I don't care if you are a Vanderbilt fan. I don't care if you love Missouri. I don't care if you are just trying to watch this live stream because of you're bored with the SEC schedule right now, which you shouldn't be, but still, you got to love what Pavia brings to the table. What a performance. Every single time that Vanderbilt needed a drive, he delivered. 2 touchdowns through the air, 4.9 yards on the ground, multiple explosive plays in the open field. That is what a quarterback that needs to run Thompson Tech. The reason why we continue to say that we will give him our own NIL deal to be the quarterback of the Red Wolves is because of performances like this. But ultimately, there is a reason why Missouri pulled away late, and it is because they have one of the best receivers in the game. When you get a need to answer a touchdown in overtime, one play, one shot, one opportunity, yes, follow the words of Marshall Mathers, Luther Burden comes up clutch. Another performance to show why he is college football's finest at the wide receiver spot. Let's give a lot of credit also to the run game. Nate Noel, 199 rushing yards, 8.3 yards per play, massive 64-yard gain to put them inside the red zone. And then how about Marcus Carroll finally putting them over the top, getting that 20-13 lead after the half. There's a lot of mistakes. Let's not call a spade and say that this was a game to where you feel confident if you're Missouri to pull away. There were absolutely missed opportunities. The 4th down right before halftime. Why are you calling that play? Good job. Great job to see a great job to see Eli Drinkwitz admit afterwards he was wrong. It was a bad play. It was a missed result. It was certainly something that you didn't need to do, because you get a 57-yard field goal and you're tied at halftime, and that gets momentum right back to the Commodores, who might be sitting at 0-1 in conference play, but they're bringing it down to the wire. Brock Taylor with the 57-yard blast. That's what you want to see if you're him. But man, how do you not feel confident? Just go back and look at this game, how many drives that there were, opportunity after opportunity. Punt, early touchdown. Diego Pavia finds Joseph McVay for the 65-yard score. This is where, if you are Vanderbilt, you get to feel the momentum. How do you respond if you are Missouri? Simply put, you go ahead and you trust who you got in Marcus Carroll for a 7-yard gain before finding Luther Burden for the 20-yard score. Field goal, you miss a field goal. Again, Harrison Mevis, they miss you up in Como right now. That's for damn sure. Blake Craig, I think you can be special. But let's not put all this pressure on a young freshman to have to deliver it and be the X factor, who, by the way, absolutely was in double overtime. But still, you don't have to trust him in these type of performances. Punt, field goal, you do get a stop. Turnover on downs, field goal momentum. Field goal, punt, touchdown, you start to pull away. You gain the momentum, 20-13. But here comes Vanderbilt marching on back. What do we see? Quincy Skinner, gain of 9. Cedric Alexander, first down run. Diego Pavia, 16 yards before finding Cole Spencer to put him down at the 4. And A.J. Newberry tops it on off with a 4-yard score. Punt, miss field goal, punt, end of game. Back and forth blows. You don't feel good if you're a Mizzou fan, but you found a way to win. And ultimately, at the end of the day, in what is now going to be known as Survival Saturday of Week 4, you get to say that. There are teams that don't get to feel that way. 4th down in Ann Arbor, close call. All you need if you're USC, Miller Moss delivering, feeling in the clutch. They find a way to drop it. You, however, don't. But I will tell you this. If you look at this game, accidents happen, things occur. Talk about last week in Lexington. You're allowed 1 miscue in the month of September. Whatever it may be. Alabama. How about we go back to that game? It took you all the way to the 4th quarter to finally see the life of what Kalen DeBoer's offense could be. You found the life in the must-see moments if you were Missouri. Overtime, number 3 from number 12, easy 6. You go ahead and get Craig to make a 30-yard field goal. Congratulations, you walk away with a dub. You heard if you're a Vandy fan, but I will tell you this. Vandy's going to catch somebody. You can go ahead and mark this down right now, today, on the night of September 21st. Do you remember the 21st night of September? It's the day that you will see Vanderbilt eventually catch somebody. It may be Auburn, back on the plains. It may be against Kentucky. It may be against South Carolina. But Diego Pavia in this offense, you may hurt, but you know they're going to get the job done. But again, if you're Missouri, you got to feel better. You don't like this win? It's a gritty win. You have a week left to go ahead and figure things out before you got to travel down to College Station. You got to be able to get back to being right. But you found a way to win. You have a run game. Let's go ahead and talk about the positives for Missouri. You got a run game. You look right now at a guy in Nate Noel, perfect complement to Marcus Carroll, Thunder and Lightning. They can work together. You may no longer have the aura of what was Cody Schrader, but you do have a complementary 1-2 combination that can easily play off each other and open up creases, find their way into the end zone. You got a number 1 receiver in Luther Burden that at 50% is better than 90% of the wide receivers in college football. You got a complementary piece in Theo Wease who can easily be the Robin to Luther Burden's Batman. You got an offensive line that needs to get a little bit more work, but that's what this next bye week is for. That's what you get when you have time to readjust, to regroup, go back and check the tape. It's going to not be pretty. You're going to have to go ahead and close your eyes at times, but at least you now have it on film to feel confident. Defensively, you get a massive stop on 3rd down. What a play by Toriano Pride to go ahead and fall backwards, get the penalty. That would have been a pick. That would have been game right there. Wouldn't even have to worry about potentially a field goal. You would have had it. You stepped up at times. You allowed a couple of explosive plays. It happens. It happened down in Tuscaloosa a couple of weeks ago. South Florida, currently right now, playing close against Miami. There's something about a team. You get 1 in the month of September. Georgia, down to the wire. If not for a punt by Mark Stoops, they probably would have not even seen the light of day. We may be talking about Georgia completely differently right now. So you get 1, Missouri. This is your 1. But we also got to give a lot of credit to Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt is not the team that mom and pop that you remember. This is a team that can easily hold its own against superior competition. And if you deliver a C+ performance, they will strike. And they're going to get a win. It may not happen today. It may not happen against Alabama. But against a lesser tier opponent, they will get a win. They will not be defeated in conference play this year. You can mark your words right now. The performance that Pavia Power put on, the way that you saw Cedric Alexander run the football, we are literally talking about a Vanderbilt team that today nearly hit the over on their win total for the entire season in the month of September. That's where you are right now, and that's where you feel confident. I'll tell you what, you got 2 weeks, a week, and I'm going to see the comment section. Cody Heffy, you got 2 weeks to go to work. You got a week to get right. You get another week to go to work before you got to go travel down to College Station. You go ahead, you get confident, you found a way to win. That's what you take away. Let's go to the comments section. Leave me your comments down below. We're going to go ahead and break this down for however long you want, Missouri fans. I'm here. I'm telling you, you found a way to win. You take that and you run away with it. It does not feel like a win. All right, hang on. Sorry about that, guys. We're going to pull up the comments. Mizzou is not a top 10 team. They didn't look like it today. We can all agree with that. But you know what else? Alabama didn't look like a top 10 team when they played against USF. For the last 5 minutes, they were able to get the job done. But they did not feel like a top 5 team. They did not feel like a top 10 team. Levi, it was Theo Wees on the touchdown overtime. No, it wasn't. It was Luther Burden. Number 1 receiver for a reason. This game was made for you, I feel like. Yes, it was, Brandon. Absolutely. Pavia Power, my QB for the Thompson Tech Red Wolves. Exactly the guy that I want running my NIL collective. We're going to make sure that he is polished. That's a performance of why we sign you up to go play for us. That's a performance that we sign you up to believe that you can get the job done in overtime. You got to give a lot of credit to Diego Pavia. Kid was picked last by almost every media outlet besides yours truly, and even Chris Phillips didn't pick him last, to be the worst quarterback in the SEC. He gets the last laugh. He has played better than most quarterbacks throughout his first 4 weeks at Vanderbilt, and I'll tell you what, he's going to get a win. He's going to get a win. Levi Sill, yeah, nervous. You should be nervous. I'll tell you what, if this is the performance you're going to have against Texas A&M, this performance you're going to have against an Oklahoma defense, you may not come out. You may not survive. But it's one game. Mizzou is not a top 10 team right now. You're right. They didn't feel like it today. But just because you don't today doesn't mean you can't later on. How do you respond from this? How do you regroup? How do you put yourself back in the right situation? I didn't think Brady Cook was awful. I thought he made a couple of errant throws. I thought the offensive line didn't open up enough creases when they had those design runs. It was very clear that Vanderbilt was able to kind of read and react to where he was going. And so I can't blame him, but I do feel like at least you come away with a win. You don't feel good if you're a Mizzou fan. You're right, you don't. A win is a win, but there are ugly wins and there are sloppy wins. Here's the deal, Lucy. You at least got to win. You can't say that about anybody else. You can't say that about USC. They don't have a win today. You can't say that about Auburn. They had the entire home field atmosphere in their environment. Jordan-Hare, one of the most dangerous places to play, especially when you're an inferior team. They didn't get a win. They lost by 10. And they never looked in control. They were disgustingly awful when it came to finding ways to rush the quarterback. They were poorly coached. And I don't see a direction for them. I see a direction for Missouri. I think a lot of people see a direction for Missouri. It may not be pretty. It may end up you just survive and advance to the college football playoff. But I see a direction for Missouri. Does not feel like a W if you're a Mizzou fan. No, you're right. It doesn't. Definitely does not feel like a win. But you know what? It's a win. There are ugly wins in college football. You're allowed one performance like this. Unfortunately, you burn your card. You got to go ahead and look at the deck. There's going to be a handful of cards left for you. Does it come out with a massive victory? Does it come out with a sweltering defeat? How does it look at the very end of the day? I'm not sure. But I'll tell you what, this at least is a win. You're sitting at 4-0 going into the bye week. You have time to regroup, readjust, get back on the wagon, and feel like that you control your own destiny. I trust Eli Drinkowitz. I trust Kirby Moore. I trust this offense. I think that they can find a way to survive, but you cannot have performances like this against other competition. Taylon Green, he is a wild card. You have no idea what to expect from him when he takes the field, but he could easily find one major play downfield and get a touchdown. You cannot have performances like this. Lucy Mack, doors are going to shock someone this year. They are. It was almost today. They already did when you played against Virginia Tech, who right now doesn't look that good when you think about how they played and lost again with the explosive plays against Rutgers. But still, you feel good. Cody Heffy, Georgia, 1-1 by Kentucky. Y'all dumb? All right, well, we're not going to call anybody dumb. We're not going to do that, Cody. But what we are going to do is we are going to say, you get one. This was Missouri's one. That was Georgia's one. Alabama had their one against USF. It's a time to get right. When you think about Georgia and when you think about Alabama, how they have this bye week to kind of readjust before they play the game of all games, that, my friends, is where you have to realize this is where Missouri's at right now. Get their mind straight, get back in the right formation, go ahead and travel on down to College Station. They're going to be playing a nitty-gritty game in Arlington against Arkansas. They may be a little injured. They may not be beaten. They may be bruised up. You take advantage of that. Man, I'm hurt as a Vandy fan. Cam Dog, I'll tell you what. I'm sorry. Diego Pavia Power's alive and well. He looked the part. You got to feel good about your run game with Cedric Alexander. Think about this for a second, man. It may feel like a sting. Missed field goals twice late in the game when you were able to probably take a 23-20 lead. But think about this. 4.1 yards on the ground, 5 explosive runs. Your 2 leading rushers had almost 5 yards per play. There's a lot to like. There's a lot to like about also the passing attack. Cook is just not that good. There were so many plays that were just immediately read out. Sporadic. You just realize the way that Clark Lee's defense was able to capitalize and the way that he was able to sniff out where Brady Cook was going. That's what it was. Yeah, did he miss a couple of errant throws down the field? Absolutely. Did you also see Clark Lee's defense kind of step up to the plate? Yeah, I would say so. I definitely would say so. Cook was throwing dimes this time last year. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer to get in the rhythm. I'm not saying it, Brandon. I do think that there are some questions. You're not going to go to Drew Pine just yet. You got to give it a little bit more time. I will say he's got to get better, but that's what the bye week is for. You carry momentum, you get a win, you survive, you make sure that you carry this type of aura with you, and there we go. Maybe next weekend when we're talking about this, we're starting to preview going into Texas A&M early October. You got through September unscathed. Now, how do you optimize October? That's what we're going to call it for Mizzou faithful. Optimize October. You got games ahead. You got to deliver. This is going to be the riskiest part of your schedule. Texas A&M, Auburn, Alabama, and then you go ahead and play Oklahoma going into no reason to stop November. Optimize October. You got the opportunity. Cook is fine. Cody, I agree with you. I think that he's fine. It wasn't a perfect performance. You got to get right back on the course if you are Mizzou. You take a look at the tape. You realize what worked, what didn't, and then you get right back to where you go ahead and advance. That's what you do. Steve Lee, there's a reason why they call it Mizzou. I'll tell you what, they play this way next week, again, or 2 weeks from now against Texas A&M. Maybe you're right. Because I'll tell you what, Mike Elko is the czar when it comes to defensive fronts. He knows how to scheme up plays as well as Clark Lee, and he knows how to force you into making mental mistakes. So you got to have a better performance when you go down to College Station. 103 screaming fans that are going to lose their mind nonstop. Absolutely. I'm not going to say they're mid just yet. You look at today's games, multiple performances that are vastly underwhelming. Kansas, they're sitting at 1-3. They had a guy who everyone believed could have been a dark horse to win the Heisman. You look at how both Utah and you look at how Oklahoma State played down to the wire. Yeah, Utes get a win, but you didn't feel confident. USC, defensively, at the very beginning of the game, it's like someone took a bat to their knees and started swinging. That was it. And they all lost, and you didn't. So if you're a Mizzou fan, you don't appreciate it, but you feel okay. Brady Cook since Ohio State looks like he's just playing scared. Yeah, I'm not saying it wasn't. I'm not saying that he can't get any better, but definitely feels like right now he's got to find a way to improve. Not trying to take anything away from Vandy, but Mizzou feels down like they play down to the competition when it's not needed. You're probably right. You're probably right. They do, and they did. It was not a good performance today from what you saw from most of the afternoon from Missouri. There was a reason why it was a 3-touchdown spread, and you certainly felt like that they were going to cover it. How many times did you watch as Missouri found themselves behind the sticks? Multiple. But I will say, you did find a way to win, and ultimately you get one. Dude, this was awful. Yeah, JB, I'll tell you what. You're going to look at this game, and it is going to be a black eye. It's going to be a sore. But you will find a way to be able to hold your own, I think, at the very end. At least if you take this game and you advance. You hold it the way that it has to be. Mizzou's run game has been great. The passing has been okay, but leaving 9 points off the board at home is how Vandy calls the game offensively. Yeah, Jeremy, I'm not going to disagree with you, but it's also a freshman kicker. You don't want to put all the pressure on him, and unfortunately you had to at multiple times because the offense just stalled. But you did mention the first part. Mizzou's run game has been great. You were able to go ahead and advance. You get the power of Marcus Carroll. You get the speed of Nate Noel. You allow them to boot, scoot, and boogie like Brooks and Dunn into the end zone. They will find a way to advance. But the passing attack has got to pick it on up. Pavia is just a really good quarterback. Cam Dog, I'm telling you, they will win at least one game. One game, they will get it done. I don't know if Missouri gets it right if Cook keeps playing like this. You're probably right. You're probably right. They may not get it done. Right now, they can, though. They can. This is where you go back to the books. You take the entire week to get your mind right, and you put yourself in the proper situation to go ahead and travel on down to College Station. Optimize October. That's what we're calling it. We're going to call it all for the SEC. Optimize October. How do you make the most of your situations? Don't find yourself behind the sticks. Don't find yourself in a situation to where you're now trying to play catch up. Don't find yourself in a situation where the explosive plays are coming. And you saw it last week. There was only 2 plays that stopped you from covering the spread against Boston College. Boston College, I'm not doubting is a bad team. I think they're a solid team. But what I will say is that Missouri's better. But those explosive plays against an ACC squad with a team that is just getting started with Bill O'Brien, that's a concern, but it can get better. I promise you it can. Burden has to catch that TD pass if it hits your hands. You're right. Again, multiple mistakes. But let me ask you, JB, when it came down to it in overtime, who was the first target that you saw Brady Cook go to? The one who was going to be a difference maker, the one who was able to capitalize, the one who was able to go ahead and push it over the top and get you to advance. This version of Vandy might be a meat grinder if you don't have a stout defense. I'll tell you what, my MK Music, I'll tell you what, the way that this defense plays from Vanderbilt, they play for Clark Lee. One thing that is so prevalent when you watch Vanderbilt this year is that they're playing as a team and they're playing for their coach. There are teams out there that are just giving up. They're not looking like that they care. They're not looking like that they are going to improve. You don't see that with Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt went down to the wire against Georgia State. I get it. It was Georgia State, but keep this in mind. Georgia State has been the crypt keeper of the G5 level for SEC teams for like the last 3 years. So don't kid yourself when you say it was Georgia State. This was a game to where you saw them down to their fight. I'm moving. If any of you guys watch the channel, you guys know every single week I do our pretenders and contenders list. There's a new category coming in the month of October. It's called spoiler. Because at this point, we already know who are going to be the contenders. We already know who are going to be the pretenders. Vanderbilt's going to be in the spoiler role. I'll just go ahead and announce that right now because they are. You allow them to stay active. You allow them to stay aggressive. You allow them to go ahead and find a way to keep things interesting. They will get a win. I'm telling you what, Diego Pavia, he's already shown you what it's like to win in the SEC. Marched on down to Jordan-Hare Stadium last year, had the game of all games at the G5 level. We need to go ahead and give respect to that man because if he led his Conference USA team against an undefeated Liberty squad and brought them down to the wire, he's good enough. He's shown you that he can hold his own. So how does he respond? That's going to be the main point, MK Music. Cook concerns me. So many throws behind the receivers and throws to the ground. Yeah, I will say so. There's definitely some concern. You have a right to be concerned. You do. But you found a way to win. Again, this is where, if you are looking at this from a Mizzou faithful standpoint, you found a way to win. Mental mistakes, you got 2 weeks to get it right before you play Texas A&M. Because I'll tell you what, Texas A&M is going to give you their best punch in their own backyard. Cody Heffley, I feel like we need to keep Noel as our main running back. This is only the second game our stars have played a full game also. You're right. Listen, Cody, you don't have to sell me. I've already made this clear at the start of the season. I am going to join the bandwagon of the Mizzou faithful. All I want to do is come on down to go play and bang that drum. I want to be invited in with Eli Drinkowitz. I want to lead the Tigers out of the tunnel. I want to be that guy. And so I believe that this is a team that can find a way to go ahead and capitalize. They got to play better. They have to. But you found a way to win. That's ultimately what you got to say at the end of the day. Many Mizzou teams like this have found a way to lose this game. I feel like this team has found a way to win. O-line needs some serious work in this bye week. We're still in midseason form. You're right. But Cody brought up a point, M. Kelly Music. You got to go ahead and give him credit. Cody said that, as you remember, only the second time starters have played an entire four-quarter game. And I'm not saying that to be negative. I'm saying that as a truth. Corey Batoon pitched back-to-back shutouts against Murray State and Buffalo. And keep in mind, Buffalo, as bad as they looked at times against Mizzou, brought NIU to overtime and got the dub. So basically at this point, Buffalo is better than Notre Dame. That's how the way logic works. We all know that's not true, but at the same time, how can you not say that? The offensive line needs to get better when it comes to opening up creases on quarterback-designed runs. The part that was very infuriating, and I can only imagine how most Mizzou fans feel, when Kirby Moore consistently was calling these type of plays with QB runs and it wasn't working, you constantly watched as Brady Cook was met at the line of scrimmage. It wasn't good. It wasn't. But at the same time, again, you got to realize that if the offensive line can get better, you get a much more stable unit on the left side, you feel confident. The run game is there. That's 100%. Do you believe Mizzou beats Alabama? Performances like today? No. I'm an Alabama grad. I can tell you right now that when Bryant-Denny Stadium is humming in the fourth quarter and you hear Dixieland Delight at its loudest, it is a hostile environment. The problem is that Alabama fans have been blessed to have Nick Saban at their side for years on end, and so it's been a golf clap in the fourth quarter. Just bravo. Good job scoring a touchdown, second team. So you have to give your A game against Alabama. And I don't really care that Kalen DeBoer has started a new program. It's still Alabama. It's still the script A. It still is the ambiance of the Walk of Champions. It still is nicknamed Title Town for a reason. You have to give a performance to remember if you want to be in that performance. Toriano Pride is not good enough. Blown 60-yard touchdown. Beat another time. Pavia didn't see it. Abrams drained. Hugh lost. Well, JB, you got to remember, this is a defense that lost multiple players. Darius Robinson, Ennis Rakestraw, Kiss Abrams Strains. You lose Tyron Hopper. There were so many opportunities to where this team could have crumbled. They could have crashed and burned, but they survived. And ultimately, isn't that what you want if you're a Mizzou fan? You don't want to go ahead and say, yeah, we won the game and it was fine. Yeah, of course you want to feel like you won. And of course you want to feel like that you were able to easily dominate. But a win's a win. What was initially supposed to be Exposure Saturday, and it might be at the very end of the day, it ended up becoming Survival Saturday. And you survived. Other teams didn't. There are so many teams currently in the Big 12 that have already waved the white flag on their season because they know they're only going to be one roster going to Arlington that's going to come out on top and make a play. So you know what? Mizzou's not that way. They're 4-0. At the end of the day, the SEC is going to get at least 4 teams in. Potentially 5 the way that the ACC looks right now. So I'm not sure if you feel that way, but I personally do. Pavia looked good. The Virginia game was unreal. Virginia Tech was awesome. I'll tell you what. I had Virginia Tech in the playoff. At that point, I sold my stock, and I bought it all in Pavia. And if anybody is ready to go ahead and sell their stock on Diego Pavia, go ahead and give me it. I will buy it. I will gladly invest it into the NIL collective that we have at Thompson Tech. And when he decides to enter the portal, he will come on over to the Red Wolves. He'll be our quarterback, and we will see greatness. I promise you. You want to sell your stock on Diego Pavia? It's fine, but I'm not. Alabama law. We're 6-6. Got to get better in the secondary. JB, you're not going to be a 6-6 team. We're gonna stop the negativity and we're gonna get back to the rights. You found a way to win in Survival Saturday. Cook may not be at the top. You're right. He probably isn't. He probably is not a top quarterback as of right now, but he can get there. He can. We saw it last year. We watched as Cody Schrader was able to take away the defense, force them all to work inside, and then he took strike after strike. And the good news is, which so many people seem to forget, is that Missouri didn't lose any of its 5 key players at wide receiver. All 5 leading receivers from last year are back. The relationship that is currently being formed with guys like Will Howard out in Ohio State and Peyton Thorne out in Auburn, you don't have that in Como. It's already established. Theo Wees, Luther Burden, Mookie Cooper, Marquise Johnson, you got it. And so that is where, as long as the offensive line and him can see the same wage, that's going to be big. I want to bring this up because JB did bring this up. Marquise Johnson's injury is huge. I think Kirk got hurt, re-injured his ankle on the bounce-out play. The Marquise Johnson injury is huge. That's your vertical threat. That's a guy who can easily take the tops off of defenses. That's a guy who can score like no one's business if you get him in one-on-one matchups. And I will say, against Alabama, you're going to need him. Maybe not against Texas A&M, but you won't need him. Let's get a few more questions in before we get on out of here. Guys, we are going to do a live show also afterwards, live post-game reaction, everything surrounding Oklahoma and Texas. Kirk runs more to keep the defense sucked in, to keep that on their brain. Yeah, but at the same time, if you're not able to get open and you're not able to create those open opportunities, why do you continue to run it? Why do you continue to go back to it? Thoughts on LSU after their win today against UCLA? They seem shaky. When LSU is humming, they're humming. When LSU is struggling, they're struggling. There is no middle ground. That's the problem with LSU. If you catch them slipping early and you're a good enough team, kind of like Vanderbilt, you won't be able to see them come back late. That's them. But they found a way to win. They have a run game now with Caden Durham. You really like what you see in Mason Taylor. There's a lot to like about this overall roster makeup. But they did also lose, and you got to remember this, Harold Perkins left the game. And Harold Perkins being out, you may not need him against South Alabama, who, by the way, what a performance by them last week against Appalachian State. I mean, Thursday Night Football, that is my bread and butter. Sun Belt, Fun Belt Conference on Thursday night, absolute must-see. I'm always going to tune into that. But I will say that if you don't have them for Ole Miss after the bye, that's going to be a problem. JB, Thorne was benched. Well, he also came back in today because of Hank Brown was awful. 3 turnovers in the first half. After he said, I cannot wait to eviscerate Arkansas, it wasn't pretty. It seriously wasn't. A lot of up and downs, so many turnovers. There were more turnovers by both those teams than touchdowns. That's how bad it was on the Plains today. And it felt like in an atmosphere where the environment is supposed to bode well in the Tigers' favor, it becomes absolutely You watched as the life got sucked out of Jordan-Hare Stadium. And that doesn't happen. You want to know when that happens? When a poorly coached team and an ill-advised roster cannot get anything going. And that's Auburn right now. And I'm going to tell everyone that's in the chat that is a Mizzou fan, you don't feel good about this win. You don't. I understand it. It's Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt, by the way, is no longer the mom and pop Vanderbilt that used to be run underneath Derek Mason, used to be run before the days of James Franklin. They're no longer the laughingstock. Diego Pavia, the way this offense runs, the way this defense is capitalizing on opportunities, they are going to give you your best punch every single week. So you got to deliver. But it's Vanderbilt. But you didn't lose. Auburn has no direction right now. There's no sign at quarterback. The wide receivers are so young that you don't know what direction they'll go in. There's question marks on the defensive line. The linebackers have been awful. The secondary has been so hit and miss, and there's more holes in it than the finely pressed piece of Swiss cheese. They're probably going to be a 6-6 roster at best, and that's not the standard at Auburn. Eli Drinkowitz right now at least has this team sitting at 4-0, so he can hold the confidence with that. Thanks for the podcast. Need to unwind after that performance. JB, any single time. Mizzou faithful, any single time. I want to close out with this. How you respond into optimizing October is the most essential thing that will make or break squads this upcoming fall. Everything is still available. I still believe that when you look at a team like Missouri, they control their own destiny. They do. They absolutely can. They can hold their own against quality opponents and come away with wins. 11-1 is not being left out of the playoff. I don't care if they're in the ACC. I don't care if they're in the Big 12. I don't care if they're in the Big 10 and they don't go to the Big 10 title game. 11-1 is not being left out, and you still have that opportunity. You have the offense. Corey Batoon can get this defense back to the way it needs to play. It was sloppy. It was disgusting at times. You had to shield your eyes, block it from the children. I understand. But you were able to get back to a win. Double overtime or not, you found a way to win. You found a way to see your veterans step up when they needed to, and you found a way to capitalize when they had. And if you're Vanderbilt, hold your head out with this. At the end of the day, you aren't going to come away with the victory, and you're not going to go to the college football playoff. But by golly, you look at their schedule, you look at the games that they still have to play against quality opponents, teams like Alabama, teams like Texas, teams like Auburn, South Carolina, Tennessee, LSU. One of those games is going to come down to the wire. And because you have Diego Pavia, because you have a guy that can show you time after time, you put a ball in his hands, he will make something out of nothing. You will get a win. I promise you this. Vanderbilt is not going to be one of these rosters that goes defeated in the SEC. Missouri survives. Vanderbilt gets a heartbreaking loss. But ultimately, for both of these squads, it's time to get back to being right and optimize October. Make sure that you hit the comment section down below with your overall thoughts of the game. Make sure that also you're following us on the social channels, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at SEC Unfiltered. Follow me on Twitter if you want to keep the banter going, at Mr. Cole Thompson. Download the podcast version of the show wherever you get your podcast listening systems. And check out all of our great work found at secunfiltered.com. For Mizzou fans, MIZ! And for the likes of Vanderbilt fans, anchor down. I'm Cole Thompson. Later.